I don't know if you've noticed, but outside has gotten a little expensive. This realtor breaks down just how much housing prices have changed since 1980.
1980, 1990, and 2000, because this is when the boomers were in their 30s, depending on when they were born, compared to us millennials today. Housing prices, 48K, 76K, 105,000. Interest rates, 13.7, 10%, 8%. Principal and interest on those with a 20% down payment, 446, 534, 616. Average rent, 243, 447, and 602. Median household income, 21,000, 30,000, 42,000. Why am I sharing all this? Because collectively, no matter when you were born, boomers, whether you were born in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, you were spending on average about 18% of your income on rent and or housing. Just 18%. And I will say in the 1980s, the older boomers in 1980, with those high interest rates, you were spending about 25% of your income, so you felt a little pressure. But if you didn't want to buy a home, you could rent for just 14% of your income. Now let's fast forward to today. The millennials in their 30s, 2023, the average home is 436, the average rent is 2,000, interest rates are 7.5%, and the average income for a median household is $81,000. So to own a house, which you couldn't even qualify for this house, by the way, but it'd be 36% of a family's income. And if they were forced to rent, it's 29%.
But we don't have to go all the way back to 1980 just to see how unfathomable and how unaffordable the housing market has gotten. In fact, in the last 10 years, the median salary you needed to buy a home was about $45,000 in 2012. Now in 2023, it's closer to $115,000. That's a 155% increase, and I don't know a lot of people that got a 155% increase in their salary. And in fact, about 40% of that increase happened in the last 2 years. And what does all this mean for how much home you can afford? Well, like many millennials, you can scroll Zillow, hope you get lucky, and find a home that you can afford in your neighborhood.
I should get some sleep.
I personally wouldn't recommend that. In fact, I'd recommend that you use a home calculator. One of my favorites is from Bankrate, and if you want to follow along, it'll look something like this. In 1990, Dave Ramsey released Total Financial Peace, a book about personal finance and finding financial peace. Around that time, the median home in 1990 was about $123,000. We adjust that for inflation, that's about $285,000. The median home today, as of this video, is hovering around $400,000, just to give you some context. In 1990, his recommendation was if the payment on a 15-year fixed rate mortgage is more than 25% of your take-home pay, you cannot afford the home. He doubled down on this with a tweet that he released on Instagram and Twitter in 2023, so he is still following this advice. I'm going to run those numbers for you, and because I know a lot of y'all aren't going to get a 15-year mortgage, I'm going to focus on 30-year mortgage, but in this next couple of images throughout this video, you're going to see the comparison for a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. But first, we need to know, how much money do people make? Well, as of 2023, or the end of 2022 to be exact, the median man earned about $53,000. The average man earned about $77,000. I have an entire video over median and average, so I'm not going to go into that today. The median woman earned about $40,000, and the average woman earned about $55,000. Again, if you want to find that video, it'll be in your video description below. I do a whole talk about average and median. And the median household made $70,181, and the average household made about $102,000. So we're going to look at Dave Ramsey's recommendation for a 15-year mortgage, and that not being more than 25% of your household income. And then we're going to look at this recommendation from Fannie Mae, where they actually look at 30-year mortgages, which are more traditional. That's what many of you probably already have. That's probably what many of you will probably get in the future if you are looking to buy a home. It's what I have on my home. Now let's run the numbers. First, I'm going to do a quick example, and then I'm going to do a deep example. So here's a quick example of how much your monthly mortgage payment would be based on your total cost of your home. And just to get an example of how crazy the market has gotten in a very quick amount of time, here's how much a $600,000 mortgage would be with a 3% interest rate, and how much a $600,000 home would be with a 7.5% interest rate. As you see here, it's a difference between $2,000 monthly payment and $4,000 monthly payment. That's why people who have these 3% mortgages, mostly boomers according to the Bank of America, don't want to sell their homes. Let's do a breakdown of average and median household, average and median single man, and average and median single woman. What type of homes could they afford? As of a recording of this video, interest rates are about 8%. So in this analysis that I'm about to do right here, all of these interest rates are 8%. If you want to follow at home, our interest rates have changed since I recorded this video. You can use bankrate.com/calculators and go to their mortgage calculator. Here's what I found. 30% of your take-home pay, if you're the average household, is about $2,500. If you can't put anything down, that means you can afford a home of about $280,000. If you put 20% down, that's about $68,000, and that means that you can afford a home of $340,000. Now that you've got a breakdown of the presentation, I'm going to go a little bit quicker through these other examples. And here's how much the median household could afford if they take out a 30-year mortgage. The median household makes about $70,000 a year. That's going to be $1,700 a month for their 30% of their take-home pay over a 30-year mortgage. If they put zero down, they can afford a home that costs about $180,000. If they can come up with 20% down, which is typically the recommendation, that's $52,000, and that means they can afford a home of $260,000. Do the same for a single man. The average single man made about $77,000 last year. 30% of that take-home pay for a 30-year mortgage is about $1,900. If you can afford to put nothing down, that's a home of about $210,000. And if you can come up with 20% down, that's $57,000. Don't ask me where somebody making $77,000 a year found $57,000 to put down. I'm just the messenger. He can afford a home of $285,000. The median man in America made $53,000 last year. That means 30% of his take-home pay is about $1,300. If you can afford to put nothing down, that's a home of $140,000. If you can put 20% down, that's $39,000, or a home of $195,000. And finally, the average single woman in America last year made about $55,000. 30% of her take-home pay is going to be about $1,300. If she can put nothing down, that's a home of $150,000 that she can afford. If she can find 20% to put down, once again, don't ask me where this 20% came from. Maybe she borrowed it, maybe she had it, maybe she's an astute saver. I'm just the messenger. That means she can afford a home of $200,000. And finally, the median single woman last year made about $40,000. 30% over a 30-year mortgage means $1,000 a month. If she puts nothing down, she can afford a home of about $105,000 at an 8% interest rate. Or she can find $29,000 or 20% to put down. She can afford a home of $145,000. And of course, the million-dollar question is, when will interest rates or home prices come down? And the answer is, it doesn't look like anytime soon. As of the recording of this video, interest rates were about 8%. The median home price was about $400,000, and the federal government just held interest rates steady. So I don't think we'll see either one come down before the end of this year. But let me know what questions you still have. If you're a realtor, what are you advising your clients? I'd love to feature you on my next video. Drop a comment below and hit that subscribe button. And to give you something to think about, here's one more video from Patrick Bet David.
How does a regular 28-year-old person that got out of college, they got a job starting at $50,000 a year, then they go to, you get 3% raise. Let's say you get 4% raise every year, okay? 4%, you go from 50 to what? 52, 54, 56, 58, 60, 63, 66, 60, what? 69, 73.
In 10 years,
70.
Right?
It's 15 years before you're at 75. After taxes, you're only making $4,000 a month. The mortgage payment's $3,000 a month.
Yep.
So if we go the way we're going right now, the average guy coming out of college making 50 at 22, 23, 24, 25, you ain't making 100 till you're 40. So if you ain't making 100 till you're 40, you're paying 30% in taxes. That's $70,000 a year. That's $6,000. How the hell are you going to buy a house, a $600,000 house? First of all, you need 20% down payment. 20% on $600,000 house is $120,000. Where do you find $120,000? You've been paying taxes every year.